sent his, it's 78 slides.
He knows we got it at 50 minutes,
I
right?
told him 45 minutes. Oh,
Uh,
I guess I should see if I can make sure I can share. Yeah, it looks like I can. Y'all see that?
yeah.
Okay.
Not yet.
Coming.
There
we
it
go.
is.
Okay, good deal.
Oh, it's 11 people.
Okay.
We better get going, hey?
Yeah.
Okay.
So just turn all your cameras off and we'll yell at you.
Here on the background.
You little chilly Billy.
It's a little chilly in the office today. No, I'm not coming from the field. I am coming from the building.
I think we've got people in now, so we'll go ahead and get
Awesome.
started if that's okay with you.
I am ready to get this thing rolling. It'll be warmer going and talking.
Exactly. Okay. Hi, I'm Renee Williams.
And I'm Billy Thomas.
And welcome to another edition of From the Woods today. You know, it is December, so we are starting our Christmas season of talks.
Yeah, so excited about today's show. We've got a really great lineup for you all today. Sorry about my toboggan. We are a little cold in our offices here today on campus, but that's okay. We're here going to power through, and we're glad to have you all with us. And we have got DJ McNeil with us again. Dr. McNeil's got the 12 Days of Christmas kind of bird theme, Wings of Kentucky episode. We always love those. We'll start off with that. Then we have Miss Laurie Thomas with us. She's talking about the Feeder Watch program that's going on across the country and Kentucky as well. So she's going to be sharing some information about that. And then we're going to wrap it up with a discussion about water and kind of water. It's close to home for many of us here in Central Kentucky and Eastern Kentucky as well, with Andrea Dreyer and Dr. Amanda Gumber. So they're going to have a nice conversation about water, watersheds, and what's going on in that part of the state. So really excited about today's show. Glad to have you all with us. If you all have any questions for our presenters, please use the chat function. And if you're on YouTube or a podcast listener, thank you. But you can hit us up via email at forestry.extension@uky.edu, and we can respond and interact with you that way. But Renee, glad to be with you on a chilly day here in Lexington with a great lineup and our December here in 2025, about to wrap it all up.
Exactly. So for us, it's kind of, some people it's chilly inside and out, unfortunately, yes. But that's okay. So we're going to go ahead and get this started with Dr. DJ McNeil's with his 12 birds.
Days of Christmas, he's calling it, but we'll see some birds.
Bird
yes.
style.
All right, I'll get that going, Nate.
Awesome.
Kentucky. I'm DJ McNeil with the University of Kentucky Department of Forestry and Natural Resources. I'm thrilled to be with you today to talk about a very popular and very old Christmas song, The 12 Days of Christmas. And of course, on Wings of Kentucky, we focus on all things bird, and this will be no exception. So I think we're all quite familiar with the idea that the 12 Days of Christmas features many different species of birds. Let's remind ourselves, what are the 12 Days of Christmas? We've got the 12 drummers drumming, 11 pipers piping, 10 lords a-leaping, 9 ladies dancing, 8 maids of milking, 7 swans a swimming, 6 geese a laying, 5 golden rings, 4 calling birds, 3 French hens, 2 turtle doves, and a partridge in a pear tree. And the idea with this song, of course, is that the singer is giving these things, these gifts to some beloved partner. Kind of a very repetitive song, kind of a giving a 99 bottles of beer on the wall type behavior to the song. And there's some pretty excessive gifts, like 5 golden rings. Seems intense, but there's some weird things, right? Like 5 golden rings. I guess rings would be a fairly typical gift, but like there's also a lot of actual like human people being given as gifts. And what sort of started our exploration of the 12 Days of Christmas, a lot of birds. So we've got the partridge, which of course is clearly a bird, the 2 turtle doves, the 3 French hens, the 4 calling birds, The 5 gold rings, all right, those are rings. But then we're getting back into birds, geese a-laying, swans a-swimming, and then we get maids, ladies, lords, pipers, and drummers, right? So some of those are apparently not birds. So let's talk about a few of these birds from 12 Days of Christmas, and then we'll talk about what they refer to and which Kentucky species that we have that are similar, because the song was originally not written with Kentucky in mind. So we're going to describe these species as best we can, and some of them are a little bit vague, as you'll see, and then their Kentucky counterparts. Okay, so the partridge in a pear tree. I did a little bit of digging on this. As best I can tell, the partridge in question is not clear. It's also not clear why it's in a pear tree. There are some versions that are a partridge and a pear tree. Other people seem to think the pear tree was kind of added later, but it seems to be, as best I can tell, the partridge is one of 2 species, either the red-legged partridge, which is this dapper fellow here, or the gray partridge, which is, both of these are somewhat related to the chukar partridge, which is a gallinaceous bird from the Middle East that's been introduced to the United States. I would say the closest thing that we have in Kentucky to a partridge is the ruffed grouse, Bonasa umbellus, because of course the 2 partridges we just discussed are not native to Kentucky. And it's also interesting, partridges don't appear to be what we call a monophyletic clade. So what that means is when we look at the evolutionary history of birds that we call a partridge, they actually don't all share one common ancestor. Well, they, all things kind of do eventually, but all the things that we call partridges, they kind of derive from different branches on the evolutionary tree. So partridge seems to be a catch-all term for a short, fat, gallinaceous bird. Our ruffed grouse would certainly qualify as one such species. It's a ground-dwelling game bird. And by the way, gallinaceous is one of those jargony terms that that bird people like to throw around. It basically means a bird in the order Galliformes. And Galliformes, you're like, that doesn't sound much less jargony. Galliformes is a fun one. Gallus is from the Latin meaning chicken and form meaning shape. So galliforms are the chicken-shaped bird, or gallinaceous means chickenish, the chickenish birds. So ruffed grouse certainly falls into the category of chickenish. Significantly smaller than most breeds of chicken. There are some small breeds of chicken that are similar to a grouse, but most chickens are larger than grouse. And it's found in eastern Kentucky. It used to be much more widespread. Their populations are declining due to the lack of disturbance on the landscape. And I don't mean like, development of Walmarts, but I mean natural disturbance like wildfire and beaver activity and things like that once created ecological disturbance. They're also suffering greatly from the introduced West Nile virus. Seems to have a big effect on ruffed grouse. Okay, keeping with our song, we next have the 2 turtle doves. So these appear to be Streptopelia species doves. This is a fairly widespread genus of doves. Generally, it's an old world group of doves, like the European turtle dove, Streptopelia turtur, which is a very common backyard dove in much of Europe, kind of like our mourning dove, probably suitable as pets, probably edible, right? So like a pet or something that you can eat would probably be a reasonable gift, I suppose, for your loved partner. Our most similar native dove would be the mourning dove. Now, this is not in the same genus with these Streptopelia doves. The Streptopelia doves, they all generally have like this black collar on the back of the neck. Our mourning dove, of course, lacks that collar, being in the order Zenadia. It has this little black spot on the cheek right here, black spots here on the wings, dark primary flight feathers. It's very easy to identify for a bunch of reasons, but even when you see it from a distance, It is the only dove in Kentucky that has a pointed tail. We have a couple other doves that you can find here. We're going to talk about at least one of them, and they have squared off tails. So the mourning dove is the only one with a pointed tail. And mourning doves are a very popular game bird. Millions are harvested in North America every year. Obviously, this sounds a little scary when you first hear it, but the harvest of mourning doves in North America is what we call compensatory mortality. So it does not really affect the overall population size. It's one of those funny things in wildlife management that sometimes hard to wrap your brain around. How can millions of birds be harvested from a population and then population does not decline by a million? Well, that's the idea of compensatory mortality, that when you harvest a million doves from a population, a million other doves that would not have made it through the winter are now much more likely to make it through the winter, and it all evens out. Now, at a certain point, a certain level of harvest, it becomes additive, and that's when the population starts going down. But mourning doves, they're very robust birds, and we love to hunt and eat them. With that being said, we do have a Streptopelia dove in Kentucky, but I said the mourning dove is our native dove. The Eurasian collared dove is our Streptopelia dove you can find here. I live in Richmond, Kentucky, and we actually have a fair number of Eurasian collared doves there. It's a fairly widespread invasive dove. This is its distribution currently, or this is where it's common, I should say. You can really find it much more widespread, but it's mostly common in kind of the southwestern 2/3 of the country. It's actually been somewhat of a mystery why it doesn't expand into the Northeast more. I mean, they're there, but they don't spread like they do in other places. I'm in Lexington right now, talking to you all, and it's actually sort of a strange thing that the Eurasian collared dove doesn't really seem to do great in Lexington, but Richmond is kind of about the extent of which that they regularly go. They're really easy to tell apart. When you're like kind of just eyeballing them in a bird book, they look really similar to a mourning dove. But one thing, and these pictures actually capture it really well, the Eurasian collared dove is much paler. So even when you see him from a distance, the Eurasian collared dove is much paler. And also this image kind of shows it well too. The Eurasian collared dove is much bigger. So the collared dove is this big dove with a squared off tail. It's much paler. And this picture doesn't show it well, but they have like this gray leading edge on the wing that's oftentimes really easy to identify. Oh, and it has the pigmented nape that other Streptopelia doves have. Okay, let's talk about these three French hens. As best I can tell of these birds, it's the most straightforward one. French may or may not refer to France. Some versions of the song say three fat hens, but whether you are concerned about that part or not, the bird in question appears to be Gallus domesticus, the domestic chicken. And as we discussed a week or two ago, chickens are basically a large domesticated pheasant, domesticated from the red jungle fowl. Not the first domesticated bird, but they have in fact been domesticated for thousands of years. Now, since we already used up the ruffed grouse for our partridge in a pear tree, we're going to use the northern bobwhite as our surrogate for the three French hens. Gallus is originally from Asia. In the same family, we have the northern bobwhite. It is what we call a New World quail, which is quite different from the Old World quails, such as our domestic Coturnix quail. Bobwhites in the wild, they are very social birds. They live in these little flocks, especially in the non-breeding season that we call coveys. And the breeding season, they're mostly in pairs or single hens with chicks, things like that. But in the wintertime right now, they live in these pretty good-sized groups of a half dozen or a dozen or even more sometimes birds that we call a covey. The bobwhite is named for its whistling song that the male makes. It sounds like he's saying Bob White. And this species is of particular interest to me as a bird conservationist because bobwhite populations are declining in Kentucky and beyond. And this is due in large part to their strong dependence on grasslands and shrublands and early successional communities that are declining and becoming rare across much of its range. Okay, for calling birds. This certainly seems to be birds. But what a calling bird is kind of unclear. In fact, it's possible that the original translation of the song was collie birds, which that is even less clear, right? Apparently, collie may be the same origin as the dog, a collie, but whatever the origin, as best I can tell, a collie bird is a Eurasian blackbird, which is this bird here. And the Eurasian blackbird is actually in the same genus as our American robin, which is sort of makes a certain amount of sense. If you look at it, it's shaped like the robin. The bill is shaped like the robin. The bird overall, very similar to our American robin. Same genus. Our American robin is Turdus migratorius. This is Turdus merula. Very similar bird. So we're going to go ahead and say the American robin is our collie bird. And we've discussed the American robin many times on Wings of Kentucky. It's in the family Turdidae, which are the thrushes. They spend a lot of time on the ground. It's a year-round resident here. We're currently in the non-breeding season, and at this time of year, just like the bobwhite, robins will form these like pretty good-sized flocks, sometimes more than 100 birds, where they seek out fruits and other things to eat in the winter. That is going to be our collie bird. Okay. 6 geese-a-laying. Okay, so we got our 4 collie birds. We're skipping past the rings. 6 geese-a-laying. This likely refers to the domestic gray-lag goose, Anser domesticus. It's a very large-bodied, sort of a heavy-bodied, bulky bird. Many domesticated varieties cannot fly, although some certainly can. They're objectively pretty cool birds. They're very long-lived. They can live decades. In a barnyard setting, they're somewhat known for being aggressive and loud and territorial. Some people almost treat them like dogs, where they'll kind of bark at people. Their eggs are edible, but keeping geese for their eggs is not something you see a lot in the US. I mean, people eat their eggs, but they're not especially tasty. I'm sure some people will disagree with that, but I think your average person probably doesn't want to eat a goose egg, and they're not nearly as prolific a layer as a chicken would be. So that's the domestic gray lag goose. Of course, our Kentucky counterpart clearly has to be the Canada goose. Frustrating to a lot of landowners, especially if you have turf grass in an area that's also near water, but they're objectively awesome. Canada geese, they're a member of the group of waterfowl that includes ducks, geese, and swans. Swans being larger, ducks typically being smaller. One thing that's cool about geese that's different than the smaller ducks and the larger swans is geese they don't always do this, but they can subsist entirely on grass. So they could just feed on grass, grazing on that all day long, which of course means they're pooping out a lot of waste onto grassy areas. They're also cool, like a lot of geese. They mate for life. So the male and female stay together for their entire lives. Of course, if one of them dies, they will take a new mate. Highly migratory, long-lived. They keep their young with them for almost a full year. At one point, Canada goose populations have declined in the US to the point where conservation actions were needed, refuges were established, and now their populations have rebounded so much that they're a nuisance in many places, and they can even hybridize with other geese. Okay, 7 swans a-swimming probably refers to the mute swan, which is not quite mute, but pretty darn close. It's a really beautiful swan. It's been introduced to North America and has now become an invasive species, which is obviously unfortunate, but it does not detract from the fact that it's a very beautiful bird. It is the only swan that you can see around here that has an orange bill, and it has this black knob kind of near the base of the bill. And again, like Canada geese, they sort of quote unquote mate for life. But unlike geese, they don't feed on grass. They're mostly feeding on aquatic vegetation, grains, and things like this. Their impacts on native waterfowl, however, are poorly understood. There are certain states like Michigan where they have employed really intensive control programs for swans, or mute swans, excuse me, but their effects on waterfowl, at least as far as I know it, are still kind of vague. Clearly, an avenue for additional research needed. In some states you can hunt mute swans, in other states they're protected. It's kind of a strange issue. Now, of course, we have mute swans in Kentucky, but we're going to go ahead and use the trumpeter swan as our native swan. We have two native swans, the trumpeter and the tundra. The trumpeter is much larger than the tundra swan. Both the trumpeter and the tundra have these large black beak, but typically the tundra swan, which is not what I've shown here, the tundra swan has like a little yellow lower spot and different shape to the head. Regardless, neither species has an orange bill, nor do they have that fleshy black knob at the forehead. They also don't hold their wings up. So this is the mute swan swimming with its wings raised. Here's the swan with its wings down. And our native swans do not hold their wings up like that. And there are many aspects of their life history that are similar to mute swans. They're huge, easily 40 pounds, protective of their young, etc. And these are the heaviest birds that we have in North America, at least wild birds. Okay, so there's our 12 Days of Christmas birds, right? But what about these other non-birds? We got the 5 golden rings, the maids, the ladies, the lords, the pipers, and the drummers. Well, there seems to be a theme with the birds that we talked about, and that's that they are edible birds. So maybe what we're seeing here is the 12 Days of Christmas refers to a bunch of tasty birds that we can eat. And actually, a variety of sources are indicating that maybe these other things are also edible birds. And we're going to talk about that theory here today. So let's start with the 5 golden rings. So there's definitely, this one's actually the most controversial, as best I can tell. Some early versions of the song clearly depict actual rings, and when there's imagery, they are literal rings. However, some versions of the song in other languages seem to suggest the golden pheasant, like this lovely chap here, also known as the golden ringed pheasant, which I think makes some sense, or even the European goldfinch as a golden ring. As the maids of milking, it's possible that these are the maids of milking. You're like, what the heck are we talking about? Well, this bird here is the cattle egret, which is actually native to both the Old World and the New World. And they are called the cattle egret because they commonly associate with cattle, right? And the reason that they do that is they follow cattle around. Those cows are chasing up insects as they're doing their grazing, and the cattle egret chases down the grasshopper or whatever and eats it. So basically the cattle egret benefits from the cows grazing. But you could see why it might be called a maid of milking. Slightly more weird is the European nightjar. And for a long time, birds in this whole entire order of birds were kind of misunderstood. When their mouths are open, they have this very large mouth and this tiny little beak. It almost looks like it's designed to be sucking on the udders of a cow or a goat. In fact, the whole group is colloquially called the goat suckers. And it's also very possible that the European nightjar is a maid of milking. But in either case, certainly with proper spices and cooking procedure, either of these could be a tasty addition to your Christmas dinner spread. The ladies dancing also seem likely to be some kind of bird, a European bird that behaves in a dancing-like way, such as a cormorant or perhaps a common crane. We have double-crested cormorants here and sandhill cranes, and cormorants will stand perched with their wings spread open to allow their wings to dry, kind of giving them a dancing-like appearance, as well as cranes are sort of famous for like a more proper dance, jumping up and down, flapping their wings, sort of tumbling around, almost looking like they're actually dancing as part of their courtship display and sort of mate establishment and affirmation behaviors. Okay. Lords of Leaping. It's been suggested that the European version of this is our great blue heron. Their version is the gray heron, which actually does bear a strong resemblance to the great blue heron, but has a few differences. It's been suggested that the the gray heron is the Lord of leaping. You can imagine these birds leaping when flushed off of a pond or a stream or whatever. Our great blue heron would be similar. And I did a little bit of reading of there apparently are recipes for gray heron and great blue heron that kind of are potentially edible, bearing in mind that eating a lot of these birds, like a great blue heron or Santo cranes that we have are actually a game bird in many places, but like our version of a nightjar would be like a whippoorwill or a Chuck-will's widow. Eating these things would be largely illegal. Can it be done? Perhaps. Pipers piping. It's thought that the pipers piping might actually be sandpipers. And one common sandpiper that is historically been heavily eaten in much of Europe is this chap here. This is the Eurasian woodcock. And it's actually a pretty good sized bird. Obviously our equivalent would be this little guy, the American woodcock, which we've talked about quite a bit on Wings of Kentucky. We'll probably have a spring woodcock episode to talk more about that species. But even in the U.S. today and in Kentucky in particular, the American woodcock is a heavily harvested game bird. Never had the pleasure of tasting one myself. I've been told they're not quite as tasty as woodcock, or excuse me, as grouse, but woodcock are still tasty. And finally, it has been said that the drummers drumming refer to woodpeckers. These are birds that you can easily imagine being a drummer. One very common European woodpecker that might be a drummer drumming that you might want to eat would be the great spotted woodpecker, which bears a strong resemblance to our hairy woodpecker. With that, I will leave you there with the 12 Days of Christmas and the idea that not only do we have some birds listed quite clearly, but we may actually have some other secret birds in the 12 Days of Christmas, or perhaps I'm just biased. You be the judge. Have a Merry Christmas. I'll see you next time on Wings of Kentucky.
I just love how he comes up with all this stuff. Wasn't that a neat presentation? I think a lot of people are loving it. It was awesome, right? I know one year, several years ago, he had done, just the bird ones. And I was like, I'm finding there's more. So he was like, well, I'll come up with and see what we can do. And he did a wonderful job with that.
Yeah, big thanks to Dr. McNeil. He does such a good job with the Wings of Kentucky segments. We really do appreciate him. And, it's unfortunate, he always has class during our program time, so it's a challenge for him to be with us live, but we certainly appreciate all the work he puts into those segments. I know it's a lot of effort, but Dr. McNeil, thank you. We do appreciate you very much.
Yep. We really do. And since we're on this bird theme, I thought we would have Lori Thomas come on. Hi, Lori. Welcome to the show again.
Oh, thanks for having me on. It's a great day. It's a cold day, but it's a great day. And I agree. I love Dr. McNeil's presentations because, of course, birds are near and dear to my heart, which is what I kind of wanted to share with you all today. So many of you all may now recognize the names on here, so you may already do involved in this, but I wanted to share with you all Project Feeder Watch. Let's get there. We go. Full screen. Which is a citizen science project program that anybody can get involved in. So if you like birds or you like observing nature, and you can do this during the winter, and you maybe don't want to go outside, this would be a great activity for you to do. So you can join the thousands of people in watching, learning, and contributing to observations about our natural world with Project Feeder Watch, which is put together and run by the Cornell Lab of Ornithology and the Canadian Bird Studies. So what is Project Feeder Watch? It's a winter-long survey of birds. This is the 39th year of it. I've been participating for about 10 years in Feeder Watch. I love it. It's just like my winter thing. It runs from November 1, 2025 through April 30th, 2026, but you can still sign up. Even if it has already started, you can still sign up, and these make nice Christmas presents too if you want to give somebody a registration for this. All you need is a bird feeder, bird bath, or plantings that attract birds, basically a window to look out into your yard or an area outside of your home or your apartment that you can watch birds. It's conducted by people of all skill levels. We always did this when I worked in Parks and Recreation. This was one of our junior master naturalist programs. So we'd have our kiddos go out and do bird stuff, and then we'd come in at our bird window and they would practice doing Project Feeder Watch. They get to count the birds at the feeders. It costs only $18 to join, and with your $18 sign up fee, you're going to get a calendar, and you'll get several different posters that you can tape up next to your window to help you identify the birds that are out at your feeder. And these are going to be common feeder birds based on where you're at. For us, it's going to be the eastern half of the United States. And then you'll also get the instruction handbook, and then you'll get, when the season's over, you'll get a copy of the year in review. So why is Feeder Watch important? Like we said, it's been going on for 39 years. It's using all of the citizen science observations. So we are the ones collecting the data out there for our ornithologists at Cornell, so that they know what's going on out there. It helps create these dynamic maps, including seasonal movements of our birds. It's going to reveal long-term trends in populations, both up and down, because you're counting these and submitting your data. And this is a great way they create these annual statistics by regions. And you can see Kentucky's listed in the Northeast region. So we've got some great statistics of some of the most common birds we see at our feeder. And it tells you where birds are as well as where birds are not. So some years we have what's called eruptions. I know a couple of years ago we had an eruption of pine siskins. There were tons of them at feeders all through Lexington. And then the next year we didn't see any of them. So it tells you where they are and where they aren't. It's also important in helping track diseases, because that's one of the questions that it's going to ask you about certain species of birds. And in this instance, you're seeing with the house finch, our finches are susceptible to this of an eye disease. So, and you record that information for them. Just some of the added benefits. Gosh, it keeps you connected to the natural world. Even though it's cold outside and maybe you don't want to go out, you can still be a part of nature. It's great as a lifelong hobby. I started mine in my 40s, and watching birds, obviously it helps in relaxation and it helps alleviate stress. It's low, doesn't cost much to join, and it doesn't require any kind of lab or expensive equipment to do this. You can sit and just look out your window. Even if you don't have a bird feeder, you can still participate in this. And some of the quick statistics from 2023-24, there were over 233,000 checklists submitted. There were over 32,000 participants that participated, and there were over 16,000 counting sites across North America. So hopefully you guys will get the opportunity to join Project Feeder Watch and continue to enjoy the birds throughout the winter.
Awesome. Thank you. We thought that would be just a good little segue for people from Dr. McNeil's program. So we appreciate that. So you can get out and actually do something without actually having to get outside.
Exactly. I know you can sit inside and count the birds. So yeah, it's a great activity. It's a great citizen science activity, a way to be involved in something bigger. There's also, for those who do maybe want to go outside, you can join eBird, which is also at the Cornell Lab of Ornithology. You'll see it when you log in there, and then you're actually going out and counting birds physically in other places. So have fun this winter.
If you don't have internet? We had a question.
Yes, you can do this if you don't have internet. Well, I do mine on my phone actually. So it's the Project Feeder Watch is a free downloadable app. So you can record all of your data. You just sit there and punch it in on your phone. So you need cell service for it. But yes, you can do it that way.
Okay. Wonderful.
Awesome.
Cool. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Good stuff. Yeah. Get out there and check out those birds, people.
Definitely. So our next topic is going to be on watersheds. Hi, Dr. Gumbert. How are you?
Hi. I'm great. I'm always excited to learn about all these bird things. But I need to talk to Dr. McNeil about eating some of these birds and maybe some water quality implications of some of these birds.
Yes, there you go. We have a few geese, right?
We've got a couple of geese around. Yeah.
So maybe we'll get excited. We have a first timer.
Yes.
Andrea, is this your first time? I could have swore you'd been on before.
Nope.
Exciting. A first timer. It's always a treat to get a first time guest on the show. Andrea, thank you so much. You know, we've known you for a long time and had a chance to work with you for many years, but really excited to have you. You're part of the Kentucky River watershed, taking care of that, right? Basin coordinator and running that. So, yeah, I'm glad to have you on the show as a first timer for sure.
Woohoo.
Thanks.
Awesome. Great.
Yeah.
Well, don't steal my
Let you
thunder,
get-
Billy.
I'm sorry.
No, you
I get
have to do it
excited.
anyway. You talk more about her, so
That's what
we'll
I
let
was
you all
thinking.
go with
Yeah.
the foundation.
You
That's
can
awesome.
brag
Keep
on it
going.
later.
Keep going,
Yeah.
Billy. We'll just listen to you.
That's awesome. All right. So we've got some frozen water outside, right? All over the landscape right now.
But maybe some in Billy's office also.
Yeah, exactly. I got ice
Everybody write a memo.
I think there might be some in the basement, actually.
Yeah. Oh, well, you know, we do live in
All
or work in a historic building, so that happens. So,
Yes,
yeah,
we'll let
just
them get on to their
everyone.
presentation.
Yes,
Yeah, all right.
we
Appreciate
digress. We digress.
it. Yeah. Go.
Yes. So my guest today is Andrea Dreyer, and we are really excited to have Andrea with us today. She is the Kentucky River Basin Coordinator, and her position is unique. She's going to tell us a little more about that, but she's affiliated with both the Kentucky River Authority and the Kentucky Water Research Institute here on campus at the University of Kentucky. So first of all, welcome, Andrea. Thank you for being with us.
Thanks. I'm happy to be here.
Yeah, we're excited. And also, we want to go ahead and shout out that she is no stranger to the Forestry and Natural Resources Department. So you have worked here in our department in the past before moving over to your current position. So tell us what you did here in the department, because I think it's water related.
Sure. I worked with Dr. Barton and Dr. Price, and I mostly worked with stream and wetland restoration and the critters that use them.
Yeah,
Um,
awesome.
And so I studied snakes and salamanders and turtles and mussels and aquatic insects. So over time, I really learned a lot. I got a lot of experience in the field. Just really fun.
Yeah,
It was a great time.
That's fantastic. That's good. I feel like that experience set you up well for the work that you're doing now. So, so you are working in the Kentucky River Basin, and we've talked to other basin coordinators about about the work similarly of what you do. We've talked a little bit about the fact that we have large river basins in the state of Kentucky. That's how the Division of Water manages our basins and manages really monitoring and conservation efforts around water issues. But you are specifically in the Kentucky River. So give us your your elevator pitch for the Kentucky River and how you go about doing your work.
Sure. The Kentucky River is really cool. It goes from the actual main stem goes from Beattyville to Carrollton, Kentucky. But the headwaters start all the way down in Letcher County. So it's a really long river system. It's about 257 miles long. And it's really cool because it has a lot of historical context to it. There's 14 locks and dams on the river, and the first 4 you can use to recreate in the summer. In the summer months, the more warmer season. So it just has a lot going on. There's a lot of history. There's a lot of commercial history going up and down the river. It just has a lot of really cool and unique things about it. Oh, another thing is that it goes through 3 ecosystems or ecoregions. So it's part of the mountains, it's part of the Palisades, and it's also part of the bluegrass. So it has this really cool change in views as you go up and down the river as well. So
yeah, so
it's pretty
okay,
cool.
so let's go back to these. Yeah, I mean, first let's go back to these locks and dams. So when you said that the first 4 locks, is that what you're saying, are open, you can navigate those recreationally. So you're talking, starting from Carrollton, right?
Starting from Carrollton, yes.
Yeah, at
The
the
first
mouth.
lock is in Carrollton. Number 14 is in Beattyville.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I always feel like I want to make sure people understand that, because sometimes the way we calculate and and have nomenclature around river miles. It's sometimes confusing, like which direction that you're coming from.
It is
Um,
really confusing. I would do it the opposite
yeah,
because the headwaters
same.
is the start. So I
Yes.
don't understand how it's so opposite, but it is.
Yes, well,
So
I'm so glad you said that because I have always thought, is my brain just in backwards? Because it feels like it should be the headwaters, but I guess it's maybe easier to pinpoint the mouth than it is to pinpoint headwaters.
yeah, I think
Um,
so.
so
And I think they were probably started by navigation reasons, and you're going in the mouth of the river generally, so it makes sense.
sure. Yeah, that
But
makes sense. Yeah, so I do think it's fascinating to think about, the Kentucky River as we know it now has really not that much commercial traffic, right?
it does
If
have a couple people working on it. There's a bourbon boat, Rock and Thunder.
okay.
They take people from all over the world, down the Kentucky River or up the Kentucky River, I guess. See, it always gets me.
Right, right.
Um, up the Kentucky River to Frankfurt, and they do a bourbon tasting, and they stay overnight in Frankfurt, and then they head back out to the mouth of the Kentucky. It's kind of cool. And then Canoe Kentucky also does some commercial canoe trips on the Kentucky River as well.
Okay. Yeah.
So there is a little bit of commercial stuff going on.
Yeah. So, I mean, just the way you described that from the just thinking about the ecoregions that it spans from the headwaters to the mouth, and I'm sure you have been along a million points along that whole path of the river. Um, but it really does kind of drive home, and especially when we look at a map of how big that expanse is and how long the river is. I mean, it does drive home the point that you've got a really complicated job, right? Your job is to sort of coordinate all the activities that are happening in that basin. And I've said this to some of your colleagues who are other basin coordinators, and it just feels like a really huge job. It feels like an impossible job. And so I'm curious about kind of how you approach it from a mindset of, you know, how do you look at that and go, okay, yes, it's a big job and there's a lot of work to do, but how do we prioritize what we do?
Sure. I think it is a big job, and in my basin specifically, there's Lexington is a very large urban area versus like Whitesburg is a very rural area. So there's just a lot of difference between the areas and a lot of distance.
Yeah.
So how I prioritize that is number one, the communities sort of drive the project. So they come to me and talk to me about what they need. If I can refer them to someone that's better suited to handle whatever they need, then I will. And then I have a couple projects that I really that I lead, but I don't try to take on too many of those because it allows me to be more flexible with technical assistance and assistance for groups that might need me more quickly than a month from now, which is how far out my schedule is normally
Yeah.
scheduled. So, so I think that it is about like prioritization of what you're putting your effort towards, and also thinking about who else could be better than me at helping these people. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So you're kind of like the connective tissue in a way, but also like kind of the orchestra conductor, right?
yeah.
Or spinning plates, however, whatever analogy you want to put to it.
But it
You
is
have a
really fun. Sorry, I just cut
no,
you off.
no, no, it's fine. No, it's great. It's fun. Good. Go on with that.
It's fun to like think about how different people in my network connect to the people or the needs of the people that I'm talking to. So I really enjoy doing that connection piece where I know what specialties people have and I can connect them to the correct people. It just our job is to know everybody that works in water in Kentucky, not just my basin. And so that's state, federal agencies, that's nonprofits, that's everybody, that's stormwater people, that's just a large amount of people. But I actually really like that I've got that very large network to help people figure things out.
Yeah, and we do have a lot of water in Kentucky, and there are a lot of people who work in the water different elements of water, whether they be with government entities or they're private or they're universities or, what have you. I think I always think of my role as a little bit similar with extension of really, through our extension offices, our agents might contact me, and it's not always my job to know the answer, but to know who can answer the question, right?
Right.
And so it does make it sort of fun, and it can be frustrating at the same time. There's just not enough of you to go around. So, I mean, with that thought in mind, you, I'm sure, have a couple of projects that, maybe are standouts or like are of the, kind of the moment right now. And so can you share some of what some of those, key projects are right now, or things that folks might be interested to learn more about?
Sure. There's a couple. Right now, I'm helping to lead the Kentucky River Water Trail efforts. The Kentucky River Water Trail is basically a nationally recognized water trail. You can think of it as like a recreation trail. It's under that umbrella of the National Park Service. And we are trying to get the Kentucky River designated as a national water trail, which will help be an economic driver, but also help with watershed efforts for lots of reasons. One of those is people don't want to recreate on water that is not clean. And so it really forces people to really think about the water and where it's coming from and how to clean certain pieces of it up in order to have a really clean water trail. And it helps to riparian plantings are a big part of it, conservation areas along the side of it. That conservation areas are part of that plan for the National Park Service and the recreation trails. So it's a really fun effort. It involves a lot of people, conservation people, safety people, nonprofits that are involved in it. There's just a lot of people involved and a lot of excitement. Judge executives, mayors are very excited about this, tourism councils. So it's been an interesting effort to be a part of. Another
Yes.
sort of,
Yeah, can I ask a question about that?
Yeah,
So
go for it.
my experience sometimes on the water is that access is the real hiccup, right? It's,
Yeah.
where do you launch? Where can you, stop midway if you've got kiddos in tow? Every time you're on the water, someone's going to need a potty break, those kind of things. How do you navigate, like literally navigate these stops along the way? So that's exciting. I assume that would be, some of those things that are really being worked out for a trail like that, to just have these designated, points where you could stop and get out if you need to, or have facilities of some sort.
Yeah, so overall, in the end, we already have a base map that has all of the access points that currently exist. Part of the efforts are trying to determine how to get more access points, how to fund those access points. I know that there's one stretch of the Kentucky River that my husband and I did when we were dating in a canoe, and it was 17 miles. There was no access for 17 miles. And we started at 8:30 in the morning and we got off at 9 at night.
Yeah.
So that's a long trip.
Yeah. That is a long trip. And I will say there have been, you and I have been part of a trip on the North Fork that the Breathitt County Extension Office hosts this annual paddle event on the North Fork of the Kentucky River. And it is so fun. It's one of my favorite things to do every year. But that is part, like, thankfully, there is a halfway place to stop where, they can, put some porta potties there. So there's facilities, there's food that's brought down, to the group. But yeah, that is a very restrictive part because, our minds are kind of used to traveling by car, and there's all kinds of places where you can stop, get out, whatever. But when you travel by water, it's a different approach.
Yep. I just saw a chat real quick. They asked if there was a way to find out about the efforts. You can email me and I can put you on the list of people that get the send outs, but we are planning on having a website very soon so that people will just have a place to actually go to find out about it. And Kentucky Waterways Alliance is the fiscal sponsor for that. And they should have a page as well at some point, but they're migrating their website. So
Okay.
That's just email me is the answer for now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent. Excellent. Okay. So I cut you off there. You were, I think, going to tell us about another project that you have going on the
Another one that
invasive.
yes, I'll try. Not, it's hard while I'm talking. So we about 3 weeks ago, I went out to all of locks 1 through 4 with the person that's over directing the locks and dams and the maintenance on those, and they have decided that they really would like to do a lot of riparian planting. So I spent
That's
some
exciting.
time. It's very exciting.
I know Andre and I are pretty geeky about riparian areas.
I
So
love
this-
riparian plantings. Let's just throw that out there, especially with willow.
Yes.
But we went to that site. We talked about what species they already have there that they could cut off of and have stakes ready to go this winter. So that was very exciting to do. And it's exciting that they're willing and wanting to kind of move from mowing all of the locks and dams to having some riparian areas that are healthy
Nice.
for the river. So that was very
Yeah.
exciting.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's a struggle, right? There's the balance between infrastructure integrity and naturalized areas. And and so I think sometimes people get caught up with when we talk about riparian areas that it means, oh, no maintenance, we're just going to leave it alone and let nature take over. And in some cases that might be appropriate, but in other cases, some maintenance might need to be involved. And even if you mow once a year, it's better than just, scalping with a mower and a string trimmer, once a week just for recreation in the summer.
Right.
Everyone has their version of recreation, but we like it to be a little more naturalized.
Yeah. In some cases, structures are important and you don't want tree roots going through structures and things like that. So that
Exactly.
makes complete sense
Yeah.
in some
Exactly.
cases. But in those cases, you can use river oats or
Yeah.
something that is a little less,
Herbaceous,
rooty.
herbaceous with softer, kinder roots, I guess.
Yeah.
Well, awesome. Well, one thing I think is interesting about the Kentucky River is its proximity to at least the University of Kentucky, but other research and educational institutions, other colleges, universities. And so it really does get a fair amount of attention from students, from researchers, not only on the main stem, but also on tributaries. So there's a lot of, and you mentioned this too, because of the length, the diversity, there's a lot of tributaries, there's a lot of urban streams, there's rural streams that all are contributing to the quality of the main stem itself. So
Yeah.
I didn't know if there's, any particular projects that otherwise you want to mention or tell us about.
As far as that's concerned, like with the researchers, there is a lot of projects going on, especially in the eastern part, the upper part of the Kentucky River Basin near Whitesburg. Because of all of the flooding, there's just a lot of interest in understanding that flooding and understanding the sedimentation and the sediment moving through the systems, and so and erosion in general. And so it's been interesting. There's a project that a lot of UK researchers are on, and also U of L, and there's also West Virginia. I think it's WVU, but
Yeah.
It's called the Flash Initiative.
Yeah, it's Marshall University.
Is it Marshall? Okay.
Marshall.
There's that one, and then there's the Climbs project that's happening in the same region, also with UK and U of L people. So it's just been very interesting, the research side of things and how the university responded quickly to those issues in my basin, and it's been great to see the results.
Yeah. Well, I would just say from those two projects alone that you mentioned, those are big projects with lots of players, lots of researchers, lots of just a ton of activity going on with those. And I agree with you, just happy to see response from research institutions and also effort to involve the community and do a fair amount of research translation so that it's not done in a vacuum. But it's, communities are engaged from the front end and really looking forward to finding some solutions and providing more information for those communities too. So well, one more question before my final question, because that's my favorite one to ask everybody. But just curious about like what are some ways, I guess, that you look for success? Because this is a challenging job. We've talked about that. And just this is literally a drop in the bucket of all the activity that's going on in the basin that you've been able to tell us about. But what are ways that you look for success or that you can acknowledge success?
Yeah, success looks a little different than what I'm used to, because projects take a really long time in general, longer than individual projects, which is what I was used to, not individual, but small group projects. And so success is a little bit different. You have to celebrate sort of the smaller victories, such as like getting funding for something is a very big win. It doesn't matter how much the
100%.
funding is. It could be $1,000, but it's like exciting for communities to get that money, and it's needed in those communities. So funding, getting trees in the ground is always a victory. Connecting people to the right people is always a small victory, but they're all kind of small victories, but they all kind of add up over time. And you have to try to stay positive because not everything goes well. Not every project goes through. Not every community follows through. So
Yeah.
it's just knowing where to put your efforts,
Yeah.
basically, and
yeah.
where your victories are.
Well, I will say too, I think that some of your success and I would count it as a victory for the basin is the Kentucky River Basin team. I've been to several of the meetings that you have where you gather a lot of these folks you've talked about who are either conducting projects individually or with a community, and you have the team comes together, they meet and they share ideas, and there's a lot of peer learning that happens there. There are frustrations shared as well as victories shared, but it is such a positive environment that people are all there together working toward improved water quality for the Kentucky River Basin, and even some beyond that. And so I'll just certainly want to acknowledge that. That's an attribution of your hard work, and take that as a victory too. And I think you have a meeting coming up this week too.
I do. It's tomorrow.
Yeah.
But I do have to give some credit to Melissa McAllister, who was before me, because she really had the group already started before I came into it. So there was already momentum in the group, and it is one of my favorite things to do for this position is to see all of the projects that are on the ground and all of the people that are change makers that can be supported, that can support each other. It's awesome. Such a good group.
That's awesome. Okay, final question is, what is your favorite water body?
My favorite water body is Coles Fork, and it's in Robinson Forest, which is the UK research forest. And the reason I like it the best is because it is kind of secluded off by itself. You have to take a while to get down in there, and it's beautiful, and it has so many salamanders.
That's awesome.
It's awesome.
The salamanders are the prize.
Salamanders win in my book always. Salamanders
Always.
and willow are the two things that just win. It
That's
doesn't matter
awesome.
what they are.
That's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for talking to us today. And hopefully folks have learned a little bit more about the Kentucky River Basin. Stay tuned. We will have additional guests talking about some things, specific things in the Kentucky River. So stay tuned. But thank you so much, Andrea, for being with us today.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah.
It was fun.
Yeah.
Awesome. Another great presentation. I really appreciate you all doing that. I always learn so much when you do this kind of stuff, so I really appreciate you
Yeah,
coming on
yeah, it's
often.
so hard to like stay within this short time frame
I
because
know.
there's so many things going on, and
Mhm.
I really just am excited to continue having these conversations. And our plan is to meet with some of the folks who are doing really specific work in
Mhm.
these watersheds so we can hear from them and learn from them also.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
yeah, thanks for having us.
We look forward to it. Thank
Yeah.
you. All right. Well, Billy had to run off to class, everyone, so I just wanted to let you know. But we greatly appreciate you all being on here, because if it wasn't for you, we wouldn't be doing this. And so we appreciate you being here each and every week. And we have several different holiday shows coming up for the month of December, so you'll need to check in with us every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. Again, if you have anything that you would like a question about, or you're like, I've seen this in my woods, I don't know what that is, you could take a survey that we have on fromthewoodstoday.com and maybe submit us a picture, and we can get you some questions answered that way, or have a show about it. I'm always looking for show ideas, so I always appreciate anybody who sends something in, and we do get those often, and so I'd greatly appreciate anyone who has done that in the past. If you want to rewatch this, you're like, what bird was Dr. McNeil talking about? It'll be on within a week at fromthewoodstoday.com, and all of our shows are on there, so you can watch for days if you'd like to. Again, that's fromthewoodstoday.com. But until then, we will see you next week at 11 o'clock. You all take care. Bye.